Last storyteller. Gonna be an amazing good time. Please, a warm, warm welcome for Jeff, everybody. Let's hear it for Jeff.
There will be no cursing in my story. My parents are watching the live stream. I'm in the kitchen pouring a bowl of Cheerios that I don't know if my stomach will settle enough for me to eat. I'm not sick. Rather, anxiety is twisting up my gut because my parents might get a call on this day from New York. They are Salvation Army officers, and headquarters for the Northeastern US is in New York. It's May of 1989, close to the end of my sophomore year of high school at Keystone Oaks in Pittsburgh's South Hills. By age 15, I was already tired of explaining the Salvation Army to strangers. But you'll understand my anxiety better with some context. I promise I'll keep it brief so none of us gets bored. You probably know the Salvation Army from its Christmas kettles. You may have donated to or shopped in a Salvation Army thrift store. You may not know that the Salvation Army is both a social service organization and a church. My parents are both pastors of the local church and administrators of that social service arm. The Salvation Army takes the army part almost as seriously as the salvation part. Members of the congregation wear uniforms and are called soldiers. When my parents were in seminary, they were cadets. We don't have a bishop, we have a general. The most popular hymn by a mile is Onward Christian Soldiers. And like the real military does, the Salvation Army moves its officers and their families around. So I have been a perpetual new kid, which is why I have so much experience explaining this to people. By this point in high school, I've lived in 6 cities in 4 states: Ogdensburg, New York, Troy, New York, Kearney, New Jersey, Manchester, New Hampshire, York, Pennsylvania, and Pittsburgh. We've been living in Pittsburgh for 4 years, which ties our record for the longest in one place, and that makes this day scary. That call from New York is called farewell orders, and they come out 3 times a year in May, July, and December. If my parents got a call on one of those days, we would move in 6 weeks to a town we'd probably never heard of before. And we'd live there until, well, the next call. Since the Salvation Army owns a parsonage to go with each of its church and social service centers, we'd move into a fully furnished house when this happens, bringing only our clothes, our books, our sporting goods, records, and cassettes. So we don't have to find a house, but we do need to pack up all our stuff and say goodbye to all of our friends in our church, our school, and our neighborhood every few years. I like Pittsburgh. After all of the moving, I have a solid group of friends here and my first awesome girlfriend. I feel like I've aged out of the worst of teenage angst, that swirl of hormones and anger and figuring out who I am, into being a normal person, a human. I don't want to leave. I also don't want to learn a whole new place with all new people and explain all of this to them. Moving after sophomore year is about the worst timing that I could imagine. So I'm bringing all of that into this May D-Day for farewell orders. I get some of those Cheerios down, and my brother and I leave in the morning, dreading finding our parents home early after school. That's what they would do when the call came. They'd slip out of the office early to come break the news to us kids. The whole family is bracing for it. We all like Pittsburgh, and we fear that we're due for the familiar rupture. We arrive home after school to find our parents not there. We wonder what this could mean. Could we really stay the 2 more years it will take for me to graduate from high school? Can we be almost normal people with roots in a place? My parents come home at the normal time, all smiles. The call did not come. We are not farewelling. The machine has spared us. My parents like the work that they're doing here, and they're pleased not to have to start the packing and the goodbyes on top of comforting their kids in our shock and sadness. My dad's heard about this new baseball movie called Field of Dreams. He has little trouble convincing me, my brother, and my sister to go watch it to celebrate our good fortune. Mom doesn't feel like watching a baseball movie, so she stays home for a quiet evening. The movie is magical. I don't feel bad spoiling it. I mean, Kevin Costner and James Earl Jones at the peaks of their powers, Ray Liotta's piercing eyes and whispered promise, if you build it, he will come. Of course, those old ball players materializing out of the Iowa cornfields to play baseball in those cool 1919 uniforms. We all enjoy it, and we break it down on the way back in the car, what this or that mystery meant, why Kevin Costner's character, Ray Kinsella, did what he did. We arrive home ebullient. Home. After the way this day started and the way it's ended, that word means a ton. We stroll into the living room to find it surprisingly dark. We pick up a signal that we're out of sync with what is going on there. It only takes a few seconds to notice my mother's, a woman who rarely shows any emotion, sitting on the couch with all of the lights off. It's dramatic. In the dim light, we can make out grief on her face. The phone has rung, the home phone, while we were at the movies. If you didn't see this twist coming given tonight's theme, that's a you problem. See, sometimes when those calls are getting made during the day, certain planned moves get hung up. Someone's going through a personal circumstance previously unknown to the higher-ups, and it's a bad time to move. The intricate domino rally that headquarters had planned has to be rearranged. The machine slows down. So Mom took the call alone in the early evening and has just sat here waiting until this moment when she has to break the news to all of us. We so enjoyed the fantasy of Ray Kinsella and shoeless Joe Jackson in the cornfields. That other thing we were enjoying, relief at getting to keep established relationships and not start all over again for junior year, that turns out to have been a fantasy also. In the harsh reality, we are moving in 6 weeks back to New Jersey. I won't get to stay with my lunch table crew. My girlfriend will be hundreds of miles away. Turns out I won't graduate with my Keystone Oaks classmates. I learned that sometimes good news turns into bad news with just a little more time. The blow lands harder because I'd unclenched my gut from the dread and breathed a bit. As a child, as a baby, I learned object permanence. You know, that behind my mother's hands, her face is actually always there. The rest of my childhood, this night in particular, I learned the opposite. I learned to hold all connections as fragile. I look around this living room that I know so well, and I wonder what the next living room will look like. And we move. New Jersey is, fine. For me, it's like showing up to summer camp the day before the session ends. Everyone at my new school has their own friends and their inside jokes, and they mostly ignore me. My girlfriend and I write letters to each other, and just after Thanksgiving, she calls to dump me. Does good news ever come over a landline phone? My parents moved 3 more times while I'm in college. I write each new address in my address book in pencil. I go home for my first Thanksgiving break to a house I've never seen. When I graduate, I've left the Salvation Army, and I can choose where to live. And I have a new girlfriend, a fiance actually, and we moved to Pittsburgh. We've been here ever since, 28 years this summer. Our sons, one of whom is here tonight, are born and bred Pittsburghers, and no one has the power to call and tell us to leave. I have never watched Field of Dreams again. I know it's good, I just don't know if its fantasy redemption story can stand up to the real-life whiplash of that first night I saw it. And yet, knowing where my own Field of Dreams was, I managed to move back to it. It's a real place, but magic in its own way. It's home. Thank you.
Jeff, everybody. Jeff has told stories here before, and just so you guys know, like featured tellers come back. You can sign up and be an open mic storyteller. Open mic storytellers come and be featured storytellers. So it's always good to have Jeff back. One of the most well-adjusted people I know, considering his story contained the phrase, "And my mother, a person not known for showing emotion." Usually those aren't good stories, so that was nice. So that was it. A few housekeeping things. First, in a few minutes, we're going to show a QR code up here, and if you don't know what that is, just tune out for a bit and hang out. I can't help you at this point. There's not time. There's not time to help you. I'll talk to you later. But for those of you, there'll be a QR code, and you scan that, and you get a chance to vote for your favorite storyteller of the night. Even though everyone was my favorite. But you guys get to vote for one. And while you're thinking about that and marinating on that, a couple things to remember. We have our next show is the third Tuesday. Very on brand. Are we ready? Okay. So how do I do this? Oh yeah. First, please come up on stage. A round of applause for every single person who told a story on stage tonight. Amazing job all around. And while we love all of them, tonight's audience favorite is Jeff. Congratulations, Jeff. And again, a round of applause for everyone who told a story. Please come back the third Tuesday in July, and we will see you next month. Thank you.